Okay, what's your right? Welcome back. Now, a couple of weeks back, if you remember rightly, we did the video to test and prove whether or not the Sealy lock-on sockets actually worked. And I think you'll agree, if you watched that video, that it was a great success. Those lock-on sockets locked on to such an extent that they actually managed to twist the head clean off a virtually completely rounded 10mm thick stainless steel bolt. Now, because I had such a success with that, I think I wanted to do something a little bit more and go on doing some other stuff and testing a few other tools to see if they work as well as those lock-on sockets did. So I've got something else for you today. Let's show you what it is. Okay, if you watch that lock-on sockets video, you'll see that at the very beginning of it, I made a bit of a throwaway comment about this thing. This is a Go-2 socket. Now, many of you know about these. They're not an uncommon product. Many people have bought them in the past, and this is something I've had in my toolbox for probably a couple of 3 years. A very kind friend gave it to me as a gift. He bought it in America, and it's not something I've ever been able to find in this country. I've even looked on eBay, and I found that, and I made that comment in the video that they're available on eBay, and they are, but only in the USA. I found 3 sellers selling these in America, and yes, you can ship one over here, but that makes them quite expensive. To buy, they're about £15, but let's show you a little bit more about it and what it actually does and what it claims to do, and then we can move on and see if we can test it to see if it does what it claims. Have a look. So as you can see, the socket itself forms, I'll turn it over. There's what it is on top, Go-2 socket. It's a 3/8 drive in the center. When you spin it over, it's got this odd shape, like a sort of letter A or something, with this screw-in side lock, which has just got a finger knurl on it. So there's no screw head on that, there's no bolt head, there's no Allen head, just a flat slot for a screwdriver. So that isn't really meant or intended to do up too tight. And all you do is, when you put the fastener in, we'll just take this 10mm for today, you pop that in there, and it just grips hold of it in that way. Now that's obviously a perfect bolt in perfect condition. And the idea of the Go-2 socket, and just the same as the lock-on sockets, is that it's meant to be able to get hold of and grip a bolt head or a nut that is stripped off. It has its limitations, as I said in that previous video, in the sense that it's not very deep. So you're not going to get a spark plug in there or anything else. But I still want to see how well this, first of all, grips hold of a rounded bolt, and at the same time, what kind of damage it will do to the tool, because these flat faces of steel inside there, are they hard enough to stand up? Will it last if you spend your 15 quid? Will you gouge lumps out of it? I haven't really used this in anger. I've only used it once to test how it works, to understand how the mechanism works, but to see whether or not that will really get hold of a piece of steel, we're going to round the bolt off like we did last time, put it in the vise, and we're going to see if we can twist the head clean off. I'm going to bother with all the torque wrench stuff, that's not relevant for this one. I'm just going to see if that'll grip that when it's rounded enough so that it twists it off, and therefore hopefully test that tool to see if it's worthy of your investment, and grind this bolt down a bit so it isn't as nice as that. Okay, that's got it firmly rounded off. Let's beat it up a bit more. Any sort of significant flats, let's just annihilate them. Alright, the same test as before. That's a 17mm ring spanner. Just rattles around inside it. Now to me, there's only one way to test this. I think we proved it the last time. All sockets, especially the old snap-on flank drive, they grip most things most of the time. But I want to grip this in the vise so tight that it doesn't move no matter what. So I'm not going to use the rig for this. I'm just going to put a little bit of a flat in each side. I'm going to wind it up in the vise nice and tight, and we'll see if we can grip that enough to chew the head off it like we did on the other one. So let's put some flats in it first of all. Blacksmith style. There we go, that'll do it. Right. Do that up in the vise. Okay. Right, let's lean on that. Okay. I think we can agree that ain't going anywhere. Now the bench test for this, what I wanted to use was probably one of the best sockets you can buy, which I'm fortunate enough to still have from my old days on the tools, and this is a snap-on flank drive socket. Have a quick look at that, man. Just as a test or just as a proof. That's a snap-on 17mm. That was a 17mm bolt head. So if any socket's going to get hold of it, one of them will. We're not talking about the lock-on ones. We proved that they work. We don't have to prove it again. So I'm going to pop that on there and see how that feels. It's moving. It's just jumping over the top. Look. So that socket is not gripping hold of that at all. It's just snapping over it in both directions. So what we've done is also serve to round it off a little bit more. Now we pretty much know at this point that the lock-on sockets would get that, because we've proved that one already. So what I want to do now is test whether this thing will. We take our little Go-2 socket. You see in there again, pen up, no tricks. There it is. That's how that would normally have fit a healthy nut. I'm going to pop that over this completely destroyed head and see how we get on. Put it on. I'll pick a point where it kind of stops. Right there will do. It sits a little bit to one side because obviously it's filling the space with this screw. We'll take a screwdriver and do that up. Give ourselves half a chance of it gripping. Okay, now it can't want any more pressure on that, otherwise it would give you a bolt head. It only gives you a screw head and a bit of knurling, so that's all you've got. Let's get the socket on there. Okay, ready for this? Mm-hmm. You put those on. Let's stick these on, just in case something pops and starts flying around. It's moving. Don't know whether it's slipping. It feels like it's just sliding round. Nope. Chew the head off. There we are. Another successful test for the Go-2 socket. There it is. It's just chewed that head. Let's just get that out of the vise. So it took, like it did on the other test, it took a whole rotation. As you can see with these bolts, this is a stainless steel bolt and they are soft. They turn and they chew off like that. But that has done yet again exactly the same thing and snapped the head clean off. Let's get that out of there. Okay, seems to be a bit of a challenge to get that undone, because when you wind that up and you wind it against the chewed head, it tends to kind of spin round and wedge, and that takes quite a bit of getting out, as you see there. So how long that would last, I don't know. I would imagine, for me personally, that would be better if it had a hex head and you could put a little socket on it, but there you are, I didn't design it. But whoever did design it did a good job. It works, and if you look inside, I want to show you in here, which I think is amazing, is there is no significant damage to the tool whatsoever. There's a little tiny mark on there in the chrome and a little mark on there on the chrome, and on the face of the little black piece there, that has got just a polishing finish to it, but no actual or significant damage to the tool whatsoever. In fact, there was more damage trying to get it off to the screw, because it's just a slot head, which I think is a little bit lame. It should really be a hex head. Maybe they are now, I don't know. I've had this a little while, but that is a success, the Go-2 socket. Now, a few of you asked in the last one, stainless bolts are soft and they twist and chew off. I wonder what would happen if it was a high carbon steel bolt. Well, good question. And all I can do is, in theory, say that firstly, a high carbon steel bolt, how often are they on a motorcycle? Most motorcycle bolts are regular 8.8 ordinary soft steel bolts, and even if they're stainless, that's what they are, like these, and that's the result. But if you're going to put a carbon steel bolt through this test, firstly, it's unlikely to be chewed in the first place, unlike one of these soft heads, which will chew. And if it does, even if it's chewed, that will get hold of it because it's hard. It's not going to twist over it so much. And if it does, then all that will happen, instead of this business of it chewing round nearly a whole turn before it chewed it off, it would actually just snap and go bang, and I would end up at the back of the garage with my feet in the air instead of just getting it off. So there we are. I think a high carbon steel bolt would come off just as badly as that. It would still twist the head off. That is if you had one that badly rounded in the first place. So there we are, a success again. These little tests are all about just trying to prove that these little things work and are worthy of your investment. I keep that under the seat or in the side banny box of my Harley with a little 3/8 drive T-bar, and then I can use it if I need to, and that fits up to 20 mil. Even my little Wiha socket set doesn't go up to 20 mil, and it goes up to 1/2 inch, and of course it says 20 mil, but obviously it's adjustable, so it's not imperial or metric. It's, you know, doesn't matter. So there we are. I think that's a success, don't you, Pen?
Seems to work.
Seems to work. I will put links underneath the video between now and when I put this video up. We're about 3 or 4 days ahead. By the time, I haven't got a source for this yet. I don't know where to get these from. I tried this afternoon before we made the video to find out where to get them from. I found, as I said earlier, 3 sellers online. I don't know where you get one from in the UK. All those sellers are in the US. So if you're watching in America and you want one of these, you'll know you can probably already buy them. If anybody's got a source for them, then by all means put it in the comments underneath, and we can all see it, we can all share it, we can all go buy one. I think this is a great little thing to invest in for yourself, and they will get you out of trouble if you really find yourself in that position. And that at £14 is cheaper than 30 quid for a rail of lock-on sockets. They have many other uses. The lock-on sockets you can use as regular ones, blah, blah, blah. But that is a great little thing to carry about with you, take on a tour, on an expedition, go around the world, whatever it might be, or just carry with you all the time in case you need to get something undone that you haven't got a spanner for. So that works. There we are. There will be, hopefully by the time we publish this video, a link underneath that I can put in, and if not, then maybe you can find one for us and we can all add it in there. So there we go. Anything else, Ben?
Thank you.
Thank you. Take it easy. Thanks for watching. Ride safe, and we'll see you next time.
Used to be such good old friends to that day back in '63. Met my friend when I was young. Oh, I should know my daddy